Hello my friends, welcome to the unboxing of the November 2021 Simon Says Stamp card kit. This is the Cozy Wishes card kit, and like I am every month, I'm just excited for it to be here. I am biased. They do send the kits to me, so yeah. Still get excited about it though. So this kit, it's just adorable. You get so much in this. So you get a Positively Everything tool. I actually have mine right here with a mason jar of ice water. Huge fan of these, and I have one over here. So yeah, I use them for a bajillion different things. I use them as coasters. I use them to hold ink pads. I've said I wanted extras so I can have one in my, like, next to my sink when I'm cleaning brushes and stuff. I like these a lot, and they release like a whole bunch of like a rainbow of colors. I'll link to them if you guys want to check them out. But with the kit you get, I love this color. I love it. So you get one of those, which is exciting. Candy as always. And as silly as this, I'm excited. There's a Marshmallow Hot Cocoa Mist, Swiss Miss. I've actually never had this brand. I think it's like more popular in the States. I don't even know if you can get it in Canada. But you get a pack of hot cocoa mix. So it's like, I'm gonna have to save that. Make myself a little cup of hot cocoa. Really cute. I like it goes because then you can have your cup, you know, sitting on your little coaster. Cute. Love it. So you get that. And then there's the, of course, fabulous Cozy Wishes 6x8 stamp set. The stamp set's gorgeous. There is a coordinating die set separately that you can get for this stamp set. I will link to it. It's a big die set. So yeah, you got all these cute little like mailboxes, birdhouse. Like, it's just, love it. So yeah, Cozy Wishes, happy birthday, missing you, you warm my heart. You know, like a very open-ended sort of a set. Like you can create Christmas cards or winter cards or just birthday, missing you, you know? I like it. So you get the stamp set. There's a stencil hiding. Things got caught in the, there we go. There's also a stencil. So this is the Berries and Leaves 6x6 stencil. Really pretty. This is the type one where you could do an A2 card stencil and then like stick a nice sentiment right in the center, or you could stencil and have like one of these little birdhouses. I got ideas. So stencil. You also get the Scandinavian Christmas 3D embossing folder. This is really pretty. Like, Simon's been just releasing so many embossing folders and I just love it. This is like really pretty. Love it. So there's an embossing folder as well. And then you get paper rose. These are called SCANDI Christmas pattern paper. Oh, it's really cute. Oh, it's so cute. So you get a bunch of these pattern papers. Pretty wood grain. Yeah. So the pattern paper. You get a sheet of Simon's thank you sentiment strips, which I love. I can never have enough of the thank you. These are the ones I like reorder a lot. So these, you can technically foil these if you have a laminator or like a Mink machine and like deco foil, etc. that will react with toner, because these are laser printed. So you can foil these. I don't very often, honestly. I'll ink blend them. I've shown in videos, I'll ink blend, or I'll use like Copic markers. Like I'll trim it down and I'll color it to like match whatever I'm working on. That's usually how I prefer to work with them. And I'll either cut them with a paper trimmer or I'll use like little banner dies, things like that. So you get that. Then there are envelopes, of course. Simon's Cream and Soft Navy. I like the colors of this. So you get that. You also get Cream, Soft Navy, Midnight Green, Cardstock, Desert Storm, my favorite. If you guys watch my videos, I rave about it in practically every video. And then also some of Simon's new matte silver cardstock. They release like matte silver, matte gold, and a glossy white. It's all like reflective. So yeah, that's the kit in a nutshell. Like always, I will link to the kit. I will link to everything that's available individually because the kits always sell out every single month. I'll link to the subscription, all the stuff. All that will be linked below. I'm not sure yet what I'm gonna make. I'm kind of just, like, it's so pretty. And I want to make some hot cocoa. I'm probably going to save this for tonight and I'm going to make myself a cup of hot cocoa. Love it. So anyway, I'll link to it and then stay tuned for the card I make. Okay, so figured out what I was going to make and I made it. I started with the stencil and I cut down some of the Neenah Desert Storm cardstock and I'm just taping it to the stencil with some of my Spellbinders tape because the cardstock I cut down to A2 size. And then I'm going to use Rustic Wilderness and Festive Berries Distress Oxide inks with my little Simon blending brushes. Usually I use the bigger ones, but I wanted to be a little more aware because I wanted to do the berries on the stencil with the red, but I'm also not being super finicky. If I wanted to keep it more, like the colors more separate, no overlapping, I would mask off the berries, but I wasn't going to do that. And I'm not too concerned because I'm also going to add a ton of splatter, of course. So I just went around with that Rustic Wilderness ink and just blended on top. I've said this in other videos. There is something about oxide inks on top of Desert Storm or just craft cardstock that I just love. So I attempted to kind of wipe the ink off my stencil for adding the red, but then I wasn't getting anywhere with that. And I was like, I'm not too concerned again. And it was fine in the end. You just got to be careful sometimes because like red and green, when they mix, they make brown and it just ends up being kind of muddy and icky, but this was fine. So I removed my stencil, removed the tape, and then I took a larger blending brush this time and I was using a light hand. Like I trimmed this down first to slightly smaller than A2 size. I usually trim off like 1/8 of an inch on each side, something like that. And then I realized I missed a couple berries. So I was like, oop, held the stencil back in place, added that little bit of ink. We're good to go. And then I took larger blending brush, light amount of ink in a light hand, just to lightly blend around the edges. You know, give it just that light little bit. I didn't want to cover too much because again, I love Desert Storm cardstock. So did all that. And then I took a piece of cream cardstock from the kit, also trim that down. And I'm going to stamp just a couple images from this stamp set. I dithered for a while because I was like, I could make so many cards. There's so many options with all these little images, but I chose the one little mailbox image and one little birds. And then I couldn't find my intense black ink in the pile of stuff on my desk and then discovered that it was sitting right in front of me. Anyway, stamped those images with the ink. Not worried about stamping this multiple times like with this ink. I left the images in my Misty because I'm going to restamp it. I'm kind of obsessed with doing that, but I'll get to that in a minute. So it's stamped, and then I'm going to color everything with Copic markers. Sped this up big time in editing. It still didn't take that long because it's just these two little images. But yeah, this is like 800% faster than I normally color. So I did warm grays for the little postal box. And the thing to note, when you are coloring on cardstocks that are not the norm, and I kind of use that word loosely with Copic coloring, you will get slightly different results because this isn't white. The colors aren't going to appear the same way. I've done other videos coloring on like Desert Storm cardstock with Copics, and you get a completely different look. So it just depends. I thought this would be nice. It's just a little bit warmer. It was in the kit, and I thought, why not? You know, it's just a knee-jerk sort of a thing to always go for white cardstock. You know, that's what we do. Stamp the image, color it with Copics, do your thing. So again, I kept the coloring fairly simple. I literally was like grabbing greens at random just cause. With the reds, I went with my kind of go-to, which was the R24 and R27. But then I added deeper reds for the bird and those little smaller berries. So that was the R59 or 89, whatever it was on screen. Already I forget. Anyway, And then R29 and a bit of R27 just to give, you know, that deeper color. So once everything's colored, I put it back in my Misty. This part's still, I just started doing this, and like, again, I gave credit to, and it's all credit to Yanis Makula is the one who does this a lot. And I finally was like, I want to try this, because I just loved it. I was like, well, how is she getting this intense black line with her Copic coloring? Because usually it doesn't turn out like that, you know? And it's because she was restamping it afterwards, and I love the look of it. She will also color, and then she'll heat emboss, you know, the line images, and that looks amazing too. I haven't yet done that. Like, I've done it before, but it just depends. It'll depend on the image. I'll get to it. But for this, I stamped it with VersaFine Clear Nocturne ink, so it intensifies all the lines, which I love. And then I took my white Jelly Roll 10 gel pen, the widest one, and added little dots and highlights and lines and things just to kind of spruce it all up. And then once I was happy with this, I fussy cut these images because I don't have the coordinating wafer die set. I'm a big fan, always, of coordinating wafer dies, but if I don't have them, I will fussy cut. So that's what I did. And then off camera, I had used my heat tool on that background because these are oxide inks. They take longer to dry. I wanted to make sure this background was dry. And I used my anti-static powder tool and poured embossing powder over it before I do anything, just to make sure it's not going to cling to all that stenciled leaves and whatnot. And so it was good to go. So I put it in my Misty and I lined up the Cozy Wishes stamp from that set. And again, use my anti-static powder tool because better to be safe than sorry. And then I inked up and stamped the sentiment twice with clear embossing ink just to make sure I got all that detail. And then I'm covering this with Simon's Cream embossing powder. So just not as bright as like a white embossing powder. I was going just slightly more subtle. So stamped that, coated it with the embossing powder, melted that with my heat tool, and then off camera I stamped another sentiment from the set onto black cardstock and heat embossed that as well, and I'll add that closer to the end. So I've got my sentiment. I popped up the little mailbox and this little bird with some thin 3D foam squares just to give them a little bit of dimension. And once these guys were in place, I'm putting this in my splat box and I am going to splatter. So I've got my splat box. I have my this little porcelain palette that I keep white gouache in one of the wells. And I needed to add more white gouache because I've been using a ton of it. So put a bit of white gouache in there, and then I'm going to add some Ranger Perfect Pearl powder because that gives it just a little bit of shimmer that is, when it's mixed with the gouache, it's very, very subtle. Like you can kind of see it just depending on the light. But anyway, it's just habit to add the Perfect Pearl powder. So added a bit of that, and I had also added a bit of water, and then swirl all that together, mix it all up really good, and then using my fan brush, I am going to splatter, keeping it more to kind of the perimeter, like where I had stenciled everything. And yeah, somewhat avoiding like where the sentiment is, and I don't want to like completely cover the stamped images either. So once you do, once you've been splattering for a while and like played with it a lot, you kind of get more comfortable within reason for where it's gonna go. Because it does, sometimes it's just like, and even then it still has a mind of its own, it's splatter, you know. But I get more like, I've done a bajillion amounts of splatter. Well, you look at my splat box, it's covered, you know. Anyway, I let that dry. And then for my card base, I used that same cream cardstock that I had cut the piece in half. So it was 4 1/4 by 11. So I scored it at 5 1/2. So it's a top folding A2 size card. And once that was scored, I put that into my Misty, and I'm using that same little mailbox stamp. And I got a little bit of splotchies from cleaning the stamp that I hadn't dried properly, but that's fine because I stamped right over it and you can't even tell. So I stamped that with Simon's Cobblestone ink, one of my like go-tos for like tone on tone, using with Desert Storm. I like it for the insides of cards, everything. It's just like a perfect neutral in my opinion. So I stamped it with that, and then I lined up another sentiment from the set, and that one I stamped with the VersaFine Clear Nocturne ink. And then once that was stamped, I'm going to adhere that little sentiment that I had done off camera. So that I'm just going to adhere with some craft tacky glue, just kind of tucking it under that little image there. And then I'm going to adhere this to my card base, and I'm going to pair this with the cream envelope that came in the kit, and that is going to complete this card. So, I don't know, just kind of wintry with the splatter and the image, and still very, you know, kind of anytime sort of, within reason. Thank you card. Love it. Love this kit. The stamp set's so cute. I still have more ideas. Hopefully I'll get to make a bunch more things with it. But as always, like I said, I'll have links to everything in the description box below the video. I'll link to the kit, the supplies, etc., etc. It's all going to be there, along with a link to my blog post, my social media, all the things. So you can check that out below if you're interested. Thank you all so much for watching and subscribing, thumbs upping, commenting, all the good things. I very much appreciate it. And I'll see you all very soon in the next video. Bye!